If coupon code is redeemed, it means that you have already consumed it, which is, I mean, you have not consumed, you have redeemed it, which means you can still proceed with the session today. That's okay, don't worry. Orko, can you admit all? Yeah, that is fine if you miss any sessions.
Yes, I'm doing it.
Yeah, please be vigilant on the admit all thing because
Yeah.
it
I'm
is blocking.
continuously
Yeah.
admitting people. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. All right, so let's get started. I request everyone to open the first code lab, which was sent to you in email. It is also made available in codevipassana.dev. Scroll down day one. I'm also going to ping this link in the chat as well for today's code lab. Okay. All right, so now we are all set. If this is the first time you're redeeming the credit using this particular link, it will once you redeem it, it'll automatically land you on console.cloud.google.com. If you're not seeing this, if you're seeing the billing page, just click the Google Cloud logo, you'll be back in the console. Now, for those folks who had redeemed it previously when you received the email, that is totally fine. Just go to console.cloud.google.com. That's it, nothing else. Just go to console.cloud.google.com. You will be able to see the Google Cloud console, nothing else. And the link to CodeLab, I've just sent it. It is also available in codevipassana.dev. If you scroll down under day one, you should see SQL only LLM with BigQuery ML using Vertex AI Palm API. So that is the code lab. Right click and open it in a new tab, or just click the link and open it in a new tab. That's it. All right. So now we are going to get into the session for today, which is doing SQL only. We are going to build an LLM application, which is a large language model application with BigQuery ML, only using SQL queries, using Vertex AI's Palm API as the API for doing LLM. So first I need to tell you, before we jump into the code lab and doing anything, I just want to talk theoretically for like 2-3 minutes about what is AI, what is ML, and what is ML, what is AI, and what is generative AI and LLM, right? Because that's important so that you know what exactly you're doing. You all would have been familiar with the terms machine learning and artificial intelligence. If not, machine learning is something that you can go from the point of where you're writing rule-based programming or rule-based applications, saying if something happens, do this, or if this is the formula for you to do something. So that is rule-based. That is what you program. Even that could be an algorithm, but then you're programming it for the application to act in a certain way, right? A plus B equal to C, or if A is B, then B is C, then A equal to C. These are all rule-based and you're programming the application. You're not teaching the machine to decide and act on its own. But machine learning is something where you're teaching the machine to do, training the machine and teaching it to do certain activities. For instance, read this particular text and summarize it into 4 lines. So, or read this particular text and find what category of emotion it belongs to. For example, this block of text is happy, this block of text is sad, this block of text is angry, right? So how will you train the machine to identify that? You will give chunks of data, like so many thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of data to train the machine and say, okay, so the machine understands this means happiness, or this is how I would label sadness, this is how I'd label angriness, right? So all those things will be coming under machine learning, where you're training the machine to do something with data. Artificial intelligence is where you add a human element or something that's available in the real world to associate with the data. Like for instance, data from sensors, your image, or your particular behavioral pattern, or whatever it is that is coupled with the data in terms of interaction with real world or human beings or anything in the real world becomes AI. It still involves training. It still involves a lot of data to be trained for the machine to respond to your questions or respond to your applications. Now, generative AI is going one step further and giving all this information, like giving a question and asking the machine to generate content for you, right? The content could be text, the content could be numbers, the content could be images, videos, audios, anything, right? A file. So basically, generative AI is where you want the application to generate something for you. Now, does generative AI not deal with data as input? Not true. You will still be giving a lot of information as part of your question. Say, hey, can you tell me how many flights are function, or how many flights are scheduled from Bangalore to Delhi on a daily basis, or something, or anything? Can you create an image with the puppy doing yoga pose, or something like that, right? You will want the system to generate something for you. But if you want more precise and accurate response in return, you will provide that with more information saying, here are some sample images, give some yoga postures of puppies which are looking very similar to this, or something similar to some information that you provide in addition to the question that you have as context and as prompt details is what powers your generative AI response, the generated contents response, right? So in short, generative AI is an advanced version of all these data science activities that we've been doing so long, in a way that it will generate the content for you instead of you training the machine to do something. These are all already trained on on petabytes of data. Tens of hundreds of billions of parameters have gone into training these models, so you can just ask the machine to generate something with some context that you're willing to provide to make sure that your response is the way you like to have it. So that's what generative AI is. Now, okay, I understand generative AI. I'll ask the machine to create content or tell me a story, a bedtime story, so I can sleep. Don't sleep right now, though. Or ask the machine to generate images or sing a lullaby or whatever you want. But what is LLM, right? Large language model. So large language model is something where you it is the model that is used, that powers these generative AI machines, that lets the machine to respond with the answers to your questions, or the content that you want the machine to generate for you. Does it mean that LLMs only support text-based questions and text-based responses? If you're interacting with the model only, yes, but there are several ways you can convert other modalities, which is images, which are videos and audios. If you convert that into numerical format or embeddings, there are ways you can use those embeddings and still employ these LLMs to work in a way that is very similar to dealing with text, right? So you're basically converting your other forms of data, images, videos, and all, into numerical format called embeddings, and still interacting with the same large language models, which are already trained. So you get the data and content that you want generated in a very precise manner. And that is what, in short, the theory of Gen AI LLM in under 5 minutes, I guess. Now, let's quickly jump to our session today, because we are already late because of all this people joining in bulks, and also we had to wait for people to sign up and other things. So let's get started. What we are going to do today. So we are going to employ BigQuery ML to create LLM application only using SQL queries. And what kind of LLM are you going to do? So what we're going to do is, you would have heard of source code repositories, GitHub repositories and all. If you're brand new, and if you're a first year student still new to the programming world or new to the software world, don't panic. It's just a bunch of lines of code that BigQuery that we store in BigQuery. And we will ask the model, we will ask the machine, let's just call the model a machine, right? We'll ask the machine to understand the code and tell you exactly what language it is written in and what exactly the code does. That's it. That's what we're going to do today. And we'll get the response in English language, which is what the code does and what language it is written in. That's it. These are the two things that we're going to do today. And for this, we are going to use BigQuery for not only storing the data, but also to perform the entire LLM generation. Why? Because in BigQuery, there is an advantage of accomplishing this only using SQL queries. Even if you're thinking that I don't know any programming language, I'm brand new, I know data, I know some select queries, I know DDL, I know DML, I know the concepts of database. Can I do LLM? Yes, with BigQuery, you can. It's just a matter of a couple of SQL statements. You will be able to write your first large language model application, or your first application that uses a large language model to generate response to your question. That's what we are going to do today. And that is what we have seen in introduction. Now, what is BigQuery and all that is BigQuery. So we are going to use Google Cloud, right? Because Code Vipassana sessions are all powered by Google Cloud services in various tech stacks. So the Google Cloud service we'll be using for this is BigQuery ML. I already said what BigQuery is. It's a data warehouse. You use it for storage and for analytics and for machine learning, and now also for generative AI. So the model itself that we are going to use is that we're going to use to generate content is available in Vertex AI. Now, what is Vertex AI? This is another service in Google Cloud, which comprises of which brings in all machine learning and AI and generative AI services together under one umbrella in Google Cloud. And there are several APIs that are Google backed or Google owned or created APIs. And we also have some open sourced applications that are housed within Vertex AI. So today in this demonstration, we are going to use Google's very own Vertex AI Palm API called Text Bison. So that is a model we'll use in order to generate the content that we want. Ask the question and get response that we want. And that is why Vertex AI is highlighted here as one of the services that we will be using. All right, now before getting started, like I said before, I want you to go to console.cloud.google.com. And on the top left corner, you should be able to see your project ID listed. If not, click that and create new project. It should be pretty straightforward where you add your project name and other fields, leave it as default and click create, right? I'm not going to create one, but if you need, you can create. But if it's already showing project, don't worry. We are only going to do BigQuery. So even if you're not doing this, you should be able to still accomplish what we are doing with sandbox environment. I request everyone to go to the Code Lab. I've provided the link in the chat. If not, one of Elise, can you please paste the Code Lab link again so everyone has joined late can go to the Code Lab and skim through steps 1, 2, and land on step 3, which is before you begin. This is where we are right now. If you're wondering what the Google Cloud Console link is, it's right there in point 1 of step 3. Before you begin, you can copy the link address and go back to the browser where you have your billing account enabled. So in that browser, just paste that link and get started. Okay, so you should be able to see this console. I'm hoping you have redeemed your credits. So the billing account is enabled. Even if not, this is you can use Sandbox and we can get started. Now, the first thing here is project creation, which we already did. I just spoke about it. Next thing is APIs. We need to make sure all the necessary APIs are enabled. So we have BigQuery API. I told you what we're using BigQuery for. We have Vertex AI API. I told you the model is coming from Vertex AI. And then we have BigQuery connection API. If you're wondering what this is, we need a connection to make sure the BigQuery is talking to Vertex AI to call the model and to use it on the data that we have in BigQuery. So you need to establish that connection, right? So that is what this API is doing. And we need to enable all these 3 things. So how will you enable it? Right click point 3 in page 3, the step 3, and right click the enabled hyperlink, copy link address. I'll paste it in the meet as well. All right, so copy this, go to your browser where you're handling this project. You can just open another tab and paste the link in your browser and hit enter. Now this will take you to enabling the 3 APIs. You're right here. Click next in confirm project, and then it'll show all the 3. Click enable. That's it. You should be good to go in about a few seconds. All right, so enable has become inactive right now, which means it's already enabled. Now you can just come out of it or just click Google Cloud logo and land on your console. So I'm going to ask you a question, just show of thumbs. How many of you are able to get up to this point? Just show of thumbs. No need to raise your hand, just show of thumbs. Use the emoji. Perfect. So let's move on to the next step. Orko, requesting you to join allow the people to join. Thank you. I know it's a lot of work, Orko. Thank you so much for doing this. Yeah, I'll show the step again quickly, Vandana. So if you're in the code lab, make sure you're all in the code lab. That is a very important part, because that's where I'm asking you to copy a lot of things. So go to step 3 in the code lab before you begin. In that, go to point 3, make sure all necessary APIs are enabled. Copy the hyperlinked address, copy the link in the word enabled, and go back to the browser where you have, sorry, the tab where you have, or the window where you have the billing account project open. Paste it here and press enter. Or I have also pinged the same link here in the meeting chat. Just press enter. You should be able to enable the 3 APIs. I'll show it again. You'll see that right here. Click next in confirm project, and in enable APIs, you should see all the 3 APIs listed. You can just click enable. In my case, they're already enabled. If you're seeing the enable button blue, which means it's not enabled, just click it. It'll turn gray and you can close the tab and go back to your console, or keep the tab and click the logo and you're all set to go. Now, moving to the next step, which is preparing data. Before that, if you see in the same page, in the same step, the last point, point 5, copy the console.cloud.google.com/BigQuery. If not, you can just search for BigQuery in the search bar right here. Do that. I'm going to do that. But if you don't want to search and exclude that, avoid that step, just click the navigate to BigQuery link and open that in the browser where you project open. All right. So I'm going to search for BigQuery. Choose the one that says data warehouse/analytics, the first result. So that will open BigQuery console. So make sure your BigQuery console is open. On the left, you should see the Explorer. On the right, you should see BigQuery Studio. On the left, it should show your project ID first. And below that, you won't see anything. But this is what we are going to do right now. But make sure your project is showing on the left. In the Explorer pane, on the right, we have BigQuery Studio. Now we have come to BigQuery console. Move on to step 4 in the code lab, which is preparing data. Now you're all set. We are going to prepare the data and make sure it's there in BigQuery. Right? So what is the data I said? Like I said, we are going to pull some repositories from GitHub, and which is code based, right? Repositories will have code, source code, application programming code, right? So we'll ask the LLM to identify what language it is written in and what the piece of code does. But in order to do that, we are going to make sure the data is available in BigQuery. Now, BigQuery is a data warehouse. It can be used as a database. It can be used for analytics. It can be used for ML, LLM. I've addressed all these things before. How does it store data? Just like any database, BigQuery also has the concept of database. It has the concept of tables. It will store data in the form of rows and columns, and not just limited, but that is for another day. But in this case, we call the database as data set in BigQuery. Normally, what you call a database, here we call it as a data set. That is the container that will have all the tables, that will contain your data within the table and all that. So we have to create the data set. But there is another point you need to know, that BigQuery also exposes a lot of data that's available for public use, a lot of open source publicly available data. So it already houses those things. So you don't need to import data. You can use the existing data to run some prototypes, to build some application samples, and anything you want. So we are going to use the GitHub repository data that is already available in all the BigQuery instances that you should see in your BigQuery services. You should see it in the Explorer pane. Now, how to see it? That's what we're going to do in step 4, preparing the data. So we have to make sure your GitHub repository dataset is visible to you. So how will you do that? Go to the BigQuery console on the Explorer pane. In your search bar, search for, you can directly search for GitHub underscore repos and hit enter. I'm going to paste this here in the chat. GitHub underscore repos, that's the name of the data set, right? So once you press enter, if you don't see anything, just click search all projects. In my case, it's already showing up, so I'm not going to click search all projects. Now, if it's not showing up for you, click search all projects. It will show GitHub repos under the project BigQuery -public-data. There is a star to the right of the project ID and the dataset name. So you have to click those two stars to make sure that they are both starred, right? I have done that. It was unstarred. Now I'm going to star it again. All right. Search all projects. I'm doing it again for you. So I'm going to star BigQuery public data. Once that is done, clear the search bar, like press the cross button here and show starred only, right? So now you're able to see your project, and you're also able to see BigQuery public data project. Expand the public data. You should have only start GitHub repos, so you'll only be seeing GitHub underscore repos in your particular Explorer pane. Expand that. If you expand GitHub underscore repos dataset, you will see 9 tables or 10 tables. Yeah, 9 tables. Sorry, you should see 9 tables: commits, contents, files, languages, licenses, and samples of those things. Now, we are not going to use all the tables. Just make sure you're able to see the data set and you're able to see the list of tables. Just a quick show of thumbs if you're able to get to this step. Use the emoji to show your thumbs if you're able to get to the data set step. So I have a few thumbs up. Perfect. So I hope you're all following that we are at BigQuery-public-data project, and within that you have searched for GitHub underscore repos. If you don't know how to get here, just type GitHub underscore repos, not hyphen, underscore. GitHub underscore repos in the search bar, and press enter and click show all projects and click the star next to the project ID, which is BigQuery public data and GitHub repos, and then clear the search bar and click show starred only. Then you will be able to see your project and BigQuery public data project and the repository which you just, the data set that you just starred, which is GitHub underscore repos. Now, under this GitHub underscore repos data set, what we are going to do is click sample underscore contents table. Just click that, nothing, just you're not doing anything, just click this table. So you should be able to see all the fields that belong to this table. And if you go to preview, you will see a subset of the data that is available within this table. Now, what is the difference between contents table and sample contents table? These are all tables that's publicly available. You can do whatever you want with it within the scope of this credits that you have and within the scope of the usage that's allowed. But the difference here is that sample contents is a little lesser version of the data that you have in contents. That's the only difference. But otherwise, the number of fields and everything, the type of data you have is the same, are the same. Just that the number of rows is less as compared to the actual contents table. So for our demo use case, it's enough to use sample underscore contents table. So if you see, this is what the data looks like. You have the ID for that particular row. You have the size, you have content, which is the source code itself. If you see row 1 has PHP code, row 2 has, I think, Python code, and then row 3, row 4 shell. So different programming language repositories. And there are so many other fields, which you can see the metadata and everything is available within that particular table. Now, moving on to our code lab, let's move on to the next step. So we have made sure that the data is available, all right? So we are moving on to the next step, which is go back to the code lab. Step number 5, which is creating the BigQuery dataset. Now that we already have a dataset, which is there available publicly, why do we need another dataset under your project? You might be thinking that. So let me tell you, we want to create a model, right, that accesses the LLM. So that is why we need another dataset. So we are going to create under your project, we are going to create another dataset. The dataset that we previously used is publicly available. So you're going to use publicly available data, and you're going to create a model under a dataset that you will create under your project now. So how to do that? It's very simple. Go back to Google Cloud Console. I'm here in Google Cloud Console. You should be able to see what I'm seeing. You've opened the GitHub repositories. You can contract it or just leave it as collapse it or just leave it like that. Now expand your project ID, because that is the project ID under which we are going to create a new data set. All right. Expand your project ID, and under that, right to the right of your project ID, right next to the star, you see three buttons, right? View actions. Click the buttons against your project ID. So you have two options in the list. One is create data set, another is change my default code region. You want to create a new data set, like I said. So click create data set. So provide a data set ID. Make sure you give the same name that is there in the code lab, which is BQ underscore LLM, and make sure the dataset region is US. So I'll ping the name of the dataset in the meeting chat, which I'm not able to access for some reason. One of the leads, can you please ping the name BQ underscore LLM? Uh, am I audible, Kiran?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So the dataset ID is BQ underscore LLM. And the location type, we'll keep it as multi-region and US. You don't have to change anything here. And click create dataset. That's it. You don't have to enter anything else. In my case, it says dataset already exists, so I'm going to create a new one. But in your case, don't worry. Just copy paste what is given in the chat and in the code lab, which is BQ underscore LLM. Click create dataset. It'll take about not even a second. The dataset is created. Now, you can click go to dataset, but you don't want to because you can always expand your project right here on the left in the Explorer pane and see the new dataset that you just created. That's it. I'm able to see it here. Now go back to the code lab. We'll go to the next step, step number 6, which is creating external connection. So we already established that we need an external connection to make sure the two things are talking, which is BigQuery and Vertex AI. BigQuery is where you store the data and create the model that calls the API that is available in Vertex AI. So for them to talk, you need a connector and you need to grant access to the connector. So how we do that is step 6. So we're going to follow what is made available in the code lab in step 6. So go back to your console page, the BigQuery console page. Right here on the top left corner, you see Explorer. Right next to Explorer, to the right of Explorer, you should see the plus add button. So click plus add. Click plus add, the add button, because we are going to add a connection. Once you click that, you'll see a pop-up sliding on the right of the screen. Popular sources, you have 3. We want external connection, right? So choose the last one, which is connections to external data sources. I'm going to open that. And from the list, connection type, choose second last one, which is remote functions, Big Lake and remote functions cloud resource. Why? Because remote functions is available in the function that we want to access remotely is available in Vertex AI, right? So that is the connection type you need to choose, Big Lake and remote function. The connection ID, make sure you choose the same connection ID that is available in the code lab because it will be used in the query in a DDL. So you want to make sure that you don't want to do so many alterations. So just take the same connection ID that I've provided in the code lab, which is LLM-con. Lise, if you can just paste that in the chat, it'll be great. LLM-con. So I'm going to put the connection ID here. In my case, the connection ID is already there, so I'm going to just create another one. But you don't worry, you just paste what is there in the chat and in the code lab, which is LLM-CONN. And make sure the region is same as the region of your data set, which is multi-region and US. Leave it at that and click create connection. It'll take just about a few seconds. And immediately, not even a few seconds, in 2 seconds, it said connection created. Now click go to connection. In the bottom part, you should see the link to go to connection. Click go to connection. This is the important step because a lot of people tend to miss this out when we are doing the hands-on. So make sure you copy the service account ID. Why? Because like I said, you created the connection, but you need to provide access to the connection so it accesses the remote function, right? So for that, you need to copy the service account ID, keep it noted somewhere or just keep it in the clipboard, and we'll provide the access immediately as mentioned in step 7. Go to step 7 in the code lab and see what is there. You have to open IAM, which is Identity and Access Management, add the service account which you just copied from the external connection, and assign it the Vertex AI user role. Why? What you're doing here, for the connector, you're assigning an access or role which says it is a Vertex AI user. That's why it will be able to, that's how it will be able to use the Vertex AI API. All right. I'm going to copy this. Now going back to the BigQuery console here.
Abhi, people wants to repeat the step 6 now. There's a huge request for that.
Yeah. So in the interest of time, I'm going to just quickly rush through step 6. I'm not going to demo the whole thing again. But in step 6, what we did is adding external connection. So in the top left corner, sorry. All right. In the Explorer pane, you have the add button. So click the add button plus add on the Explorer pane. And once you have it open, you have 3 popular sources. We want the third source, which is external data sources, right? That's what we want to create. Click that. In the connection type, you need to choose big lake and remote functions. Why? We are going to remotely access a Vertex AI model, right? We are going to expose a Vertex AI model as a remote function in BigQuery. So you want to choose that. Connection ID should be BQ-CONN. I think it's the LLM-con, whatever it is there in the code lab, and it was also pasted in the chat. Use that particular thing as connection ID. Make sure it can be anything, but in this use case, I'm asking you to use the same connection ID, so that way you're not replacing too many things once you copy paste. That's why. Region, choose multi-region and choose it as US and click create connection. In about a second, you should see that the connection is created with a go to connection button. Click the go to connection button and it'll take you to the connection info page. And in the connection info page, make a note of the service account ID by copying it. So now we have the service account ID copied. What we are going to do is provision access. So what I'm going to do is open another console by right-clicking on the Google Cloud logo, open link in new tab, so you're not interrupting anything in the BigQuery console. Open a new tab with Google Cloud Console. On the top left corner navigation menu, click that and go to IAM and admin. So this is important. Otherwise, you can also search for IAM and admin here in the search bar. It's right here. It should be one of the four that's dropped down. If not, you can always search for IAM and admin and click on IAM and admin resource access control, right? So click that. You should be able to get this page where you're able to provision accesses. This is what you see, permission for project. Now we have everything. The only thing is access needs to be granted. So click the grant access button. Once you click grant access button, provide the service account in the new principals tab that we just copied, paste it there and hit enter. And in the role, like I said, it has to have the Vertex AI user role. So type in the filter search bar, type in Vertex space AI space user. You get it. So select that particular one and click save. That's it. Your policy is updated and you're all set. You can close the IAM tab and you can get back to BigQuery console, close the connection tab. We are all set. And last 2 steps to go. One is creating the model itself by accessing the Vertex AI model. Yes.
Can you repeat from IAM? I just lost the connection, so.
I'm sorry, the steps are available. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip that, but I'm going to tell you where exactly you can look. Go to the code lab, step number 7. It is exactly what is right there. Maybe I can just quickly say it, but yeah, I can't go in detail. So I hope you understand that. What I'm going to do for step 7 is right click on the Google Cloud logo, open link in new tab. And once it gets there, search for IAM on the search bar or just click the hamburger menu on the top left corner. You should see IAM and admin there, or you can also search here and choose IAM admin. And once you select that, you should be able to see permissions, as you can see right here. Click grant access in the under view by principals tab. And once you once you get the pop-up for grant access, add the principal which you copied from the service account page of the connection. And in the role, assign Vertex space AI space user. And once you get that, select it and click save. The policy should be updated and you're good to go. If you're not able to follow this, if it was too fast, it is there in step 7, which is granting permissions in the code lab. Please do it at your own pace. We are going to step 8 now, which is creating the remote model. And just one more step, which is querying using the model we created. So we'll get the desired result. All right. So now that the data is available, you also created the data set where we'll store the model. And finally, we are going to write the DDL to create the model that accesses the Vertex AI API and stores the model in the data set you just created. So go to step 8 in the code lab and copy this SQL construct, this SQL statement. I'm going to paste it in the meeting chat as well. Right, so it is available in the meeting chat. Copy that and go to the BigQuery console. Click your data set that you just created, right? In my case, I just created BQ underscore LLM. You should also have created BQ underscore LLM. So click that data set. It'll open the dataset info. Don't worry about it. Just open another tab, compose new query. On the right-hand side, you should see a plus icon right here. Just press that for composing new query. Paste the construct which you just copied from the code lab, and also it's available in the meeting chat. As you can see here, the construct, I'll explain the construct quickly. Create or replace model. It's a standard SQL statement for creating or replacing a new model. BQ underscore LLM is your data set which you just created. LLM underscore model. This is the name we are provisioning to the model which we are going to create right now. Remote, we are using the keyword remote to say that this is a remote function which will use a remote, which will use an API from another service. With connection, this is a keyword, and pass in the connection name which we just created, which is LLM-CONN. You have to prefix it with the region which is US. And in the options is a keyword, and within parameters for option, you have to pass remote underscore service underscore type, which is a keyword. And the value that is passed in there is the API, which is a text bison API that is in Vertex AI that we are calling from BigQuery. That's it. This is a query. Just run this query. It'll take about a few seconds. And once it's created, it will give go to model button. Yeah, it's successfully created the model LLM underscore model. So you've successfully created your first LLM model. If it is your first, then click go to model. Nothing is there to see. You just know what the details are. What is the data set, where it's located, what is the connection behind it, what's the endpoint. Just close it. We are not going to do anything with it. Now that the model is created, a quick show of thumbs. How many of you are able to create the model? Don't raise your hand, please. It makes me think like you have a question. Just show your thumbs. Perfect. All right. So going back to the code lab, we are almost done. You can skip step 9. We'll go to step 10 directly because step 9 and step 10 are the same queries except for one command, which is or one statement, which is to flatten the output. Step 9 is the same query without flattening the output, which means your response will be quite unstructured and nested. Whereas when you set the flattened JSON output value as true in the same query, you will get a more structured result. So it's easy in your eye, on your eye. That's it, right? That's what we are going to do now. You can skip step 9, go to step 10. Let's flatten the query result. Now, all you're going to do is just one last step, which is using the model that we just created, accessing the Vertex AI's API to generate text based on the source code that we're going to provide. We are going to ask a question, which I told you before, which is read the code in the following text and tell me which language it is written in and what exactly the code does. That's what you want to ask the generative AI. So copy this select statement from step 10 in your code lab. I'm pinging it in the chat as well in case. All right, now go back to your BigQuery console, open another tab or use the same code SQL tab and paste the query you've just copied. So I'll just quickly explain what this does. You know select start from already. I don't have to explain that. ML.generate text is the keyword. So that is the function that remotely calls the model we just created. So the Vertex AI model here. And the subquery within that, which is a select SQL, is what tells BigQuery what the prompt is. So like I said before, prompt is just a question that you ask. Anything that you want the model to do is prompting, right? Asking. So that is what prompt is. So here I've asked, can you read the code in the following text and generate a summary for what the code is doing and what language it is written in? And I'm passing in the content. And what is the content? That is the content that is selected from the public data set that we identified, right? Public BigQuery public data dot GitHub repos dot sample contents. Sample contents is the name of the table. GitHub repos is the data set, and BigQuery public data is the project where BigQuery gives you access to public data, so you can build a lot of applications and prototypes to do sample demos in whatever scope you can use the data in. And there are 3 important parameters. This is a more detailed concept. We'll discuss this further. We have Polong also today to talk some best practices, so he'll touch base on that. But temperature will tell you tell the machine to control the randomness. So if it's 0.2 and not too much, I'll say make sure the response is precise or not too wild, right? That's what temperature does. Max output tokens is how many words or how many tokens I want in response for my question. True as flattened JSON output, which I said before, the response will be in a JSON format in a more structured way. So I'm going to run this query. You can also do this. I've explained what the query does. Run the query, and in a few seconds, you should be able to see what the query does. There you go. So you can see the generated LLM text says that this is the assembly code, this is the Go language code, this is a C++ code. It defines the function of the interceptor interface. These functions allow you to hook and unhook API calls. So basically, it's telling you everything that the class or the code does. Step 5, row 5, it says Java code defines a class called business, which has a field called baseline info. The class also has getters and setters. So basically, it helps you understand the code. And that is about it. Show of thumbs. How many of you were able to generate text successfully? Show of thumbs. All right, that's perfect. So some of you have completed, some of you are raising your hand. So I'm assuming that you've all been able to successfully complete and create your first GenAI, first LLM-based SQL-only implementation of LLM that you've completed just now. So congratulations, you've completed. Since this is a sandbox project and we've used data from BigQuery public data set, you're not storing anything, so don't bother. You don't have to actually clear anything right now. You're good to go. It won't consume any credit that you have used. Just don't run the select query multiple times. Just run it one time, it's fine. For results, you just, once you run it and get the result set, just take a screenshot of this whole screen. I should be able to see your project ID. I should be able to see your query, and I should be able to see at least one or two rows in the result set. That's it. This should be your result set screenshot. Just screenshot it, put it in a Google Drive, which is accessible to anyone with a link, and submit it in the results form, which is available in codevipassana.dev. If you scroll down, results info has a result submission form where you have to submit it. Just mark it as session 1. You should have the drop down. All right, so this ends my part of the session. Now I'll hand it over to Polong for the next 15 minutes for a lightning talk on best practices. He's an industry expert and is an amazing lead, and I'd love to hear from him. Polong, are you there in the call?
Hi there. Yes, I am. I can't seem to share my video, but I'd love to be able to do that, and also perhaps to share my screen as well, if that's okay.
Yes, one second. I'll make you a host.
Amazing. In the meantime, nice to meet everyone. You'll see my face shortly. But my name is Polong, and I'm a developer advocate like Abhi. And I'm based in London, UK. Although I have a Canadian accent, I'm actually from Canada. So happy to be here today. And today I'll be talking about prompt engineering. And thank you so much, Abhi. I've just been able to enable my camera. You'll see here I'm in this sort of strange little meeting room here. Hopefully everyone can see me now. And I'll also share my screen here just to give a brief overview of this. So just give me 1 second as I here, 1 second here. Open, enable this one. Oh, my screen is not sharing. 1 second here. That's strange. Can't seem to share my screen. Just give me 1 second here. Share my window perhaps like this, and then I'll make it full screen. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so hopefully this will be sharing shortly. Can you see a screen? I don't think you can see a screen yet, can you? Oh, okay, it's showing up just now. It's a little bit slow. Okay, great. And I'll go on full screen here.
Able to see it.
Excellent. So thank you so much, Abhi. I'll give a quick overview of different ways to do sort of prompt engineering and some of the best practices as well. I'll show you a demo or two just in the short sort of time that we may have, about 15 minutes, and I think that will be just enough time. And there's also a lot of materials here. So if you want to be able to learn more around prompt engineering on your own, then there's a lot of materials here for you to sort of kind of do at your own pace. But for this kind of 15 minutes, don't worry about doing anything. You can just sort of sit back, relax and just kind of watch and see how I'm doing some things here. So I want to first start off with the resource where all the materials are, which are in this GitHub repository under Google Cloud Platform /generative AI. And we'll drop that into that Google Meet just very shortly. But in here, there's a lot of different samples that you may find around how to do generative AI on Google Cloud. And importantly, we want to talk about prompts. And prompts is covered under language, which includes text, chat, and code. And so we'll talk a little bit about this sort of prompts folder. And there's other parts of this generative AI repo, but we'll just talk about prompt engineering specifically. So we'll talk about this folder here. And under prompts, we have a number of different examples, which I'll cover briefly. There is an intro to prompt design, or how to begin designing the prompts that you may consider doing. There's also some examples of different use cases for your prompts as well. For example, if you want to do ideation, if you want to do Q&A or question answering to an LM, if you want to do text classification for your prompts, extraction of something from your text, kind of like what Abby had shown you earlier with extracting out the language of the code and what the code is doing in BigQuery. That's sort of an example of text extraction. There's also text summarization, of course, summarizing. Also, I guess summarizing code is also another example of summarization there as well. So I'm going to move over to a notebook environment so you can kind of see as I run through some of these notebooks. And of course, all these notebooks and code samples are all available in that repo, so you can kind of go through them on your own. I'll just kind of highlight a couple of key things that I think everyone might want to consider knowing when it comes to designing prompts. And the key question to think about is why care about prompt design? Why care about prompt engineering? Or why care about all the different words that you might think of using in your prompt? And the reason is because a lot of these large language models are very sensitive to the kinds of words that you end up using, the order of words, your phrasing, and how you actually ask the right questions. Sometimes if you don't ask the right questions, you won't get the right response that you are perhaps looking for. So here's some overall some good best practices in terms of when you think about creating your own prompts, what are the things that you might want to consider doing? So for example, if you want to be looking for a good name for a flower shop, here's an example of what you should not do. So here's an example of a prompt that you should probably not consider doing. What do you think could be a good name for a flower shop that specializes in selling bouquets of dried flowers more than fresh flowers? Thank you. Now, nothing seems wrong with this prompt, right? Grammatically, it's correct. It's a proper question. But what the problem actually with this is that it's unnecessarily verbose. There's too many words. You're using too many words to explain something that could be quite a bit simpler for a prompt. So recommended is something that you probably saw below here. It says, suggest a name for a flower shop that sells bouquets of dried flowers. And even though both of these prompts may give you the same or very similar responses, the second style of prompting is going to give a much more robust answer because it's very direct and to the point. So there's no sort of like, let me ask a question and I'm going to thank the LLM. You don't need to thank the LLM, right? You don't need to add too many words that kind of embellish the prompt too much. Just be very specific and very direct when it comes to asking your LLM questions. So you want to be specific and well-defined as well. So for example, instead of just saying something generic like, tell me about Earth, instead you could say something like, generate a list of ways that make Earth unique compared to other planets. So something a little bit more than just a very generic question here, right? So here I can just kind of call these answers, and it gives me very different answers because one is much more specific than the other. So generating a list is very specific compared to the one before. So in this notebook, there's some other best practices here as well, like asking one task at a time, watch out for hallucinations, and so on. So you can go through this notebook on your own time. My goal here is not to cover all of these best practices, and I'm sure there's other best practices available that you can find online as well. But here's just a hint of some things to think about in terms of best practices for designing prompts. Here's something else I also wanted to cover, which is around chain of thought, which, if you're new to prompt engineering, you may be sort of new to this. But I'll give you a quick example of what we mean by chain of thought. So when we think, ignoring AI, ignoring generative AI for a second, chain of thought is really thinking about how do we progressively break down a certain task and coming to an answer through a series of steps in our minds, right? So when someone says, for example, like this question, Roger has 5 tennis balls. He buys 2 more cans of tennis balls. Each can has 3 tennis balls. How many tennis balls does he have now? And suppose the answer here is correct. It's 11. And now let's say the cafeteria has 23 apples. If they use 20 to make lunch and bought 6 more, how many apples do they have? So you can answer this across a series of steps. And that's sort of the premise for chain of thought. So here I'll run this. And here, this is not using chain of thought because it's just giving you the answer. The answer is 19. However, you could give it a prime or give it a one-shot example. So instead of just saying the answer is 11, you could say instead, Roger started with 5 balls. 2 cans of 3 tennis balls each is 6 tennis balls. 5 plus 6 is 11. So the answer is 11. So if you give an example like this as part of your prompt, then it's also going to respond in a very similar way with your future questions. So here, it's not just saying the answer is 9. It's actually giving you the proper sort of steps here. The cafeteria started with 23, they use 20, and so on. So it's a chain of thought that's as part of this. Now, there's other ways of doing chain of thought, and you can cover this. You can go through this in the notebook itself. And the notebook is covered under chain of thought React here. So you can go through this as well. But I also want to cover the React part, which some of you may be familiar with, but others may not be familiar with React. React is short for reasoning and action. So let me show you a little bit around that. And this is really important when it comes to thinking about prompts and what you can do with prompts as well. So one of the problems with large language models is it's only locked in terms of its knowledge based off of what it's being trained on. So if you were to ask a question like, what is today's date? It's not going to be correct, right? It's not going to be correct if it's kind of trained on a closed corpus of data. However, you could give your large language model the ability to ask or the ability to fetch information or to do things and make an answer to that question. So for example, here, let's create a really simple function that gets the current date, right? So this is using the datetime package in Python. We can run this, and then we can run this through LangChain. I'm not going to go through all the details of the code here, but just give you an example here of how this could potentially run. And now, if you run it as an agent, then using a React agent, reasoning and action here, it can now say, okay, entering a new chain, and it says, in order to answer this question of what's today's date, I need to use this function called getCurrentDate. And the response from the function says 2023-11-06, which is what the datetime package responds with. That's today's date. And then it says, okay, so based off of this, today is 2023-11-06, and it provides that answer. So you can do this and extend this in terms of what you can do with other sources of data or what tools you want to use to enable your LLM. So for example, with React, you can also query Wikipedia and so on. So you can essentially enable, not just think about how you engineer your prompts, but think about how you can enable more capabilities to your responses based on your questions that are not just limited to data that's being trapped sort of in that closed domain from your large language model, like PaLM. Give you a quick example of something else here. So you're going through this code lab today with Abhi, and you're looking at this sort of prompt like, can you read the code in the following text and generate a summary for what the code is doing and what the language is written in? What's interesting about this is, you can write this in SQL very, very easily. But what happens if you're working in an organization and you have, let's say, maybe Abhi created a prompt, and I want to borrow that prompt, right? I want to use the exact same prompt that Abhi used, or I want to improve on Abhi's prompt. How would we begin doing that? So to solve this, I created my own sort of little version of a prompt storage solution. And you can see here that I have some prompts that I use to help me review some notebooks, to help me review some text, essentially. So as part of this, I created a list of prompt templates, one which just includes checking spelling and grammar. So here is a template that I created, and I can call it with my own personal API. This is not public. This is my own API. And I can find that, okay, you were given some text in Markdown format, and don't fix this, don't fix that, but this is a spelling, this checks for spelling and grammar, and then returns a response. So I store this prompt, and then I can use it repeatedly thereafter, or I can even customize it. And if I wanted to, I can go back here and I can call it and try it on here. So I could say, review POM template, check spelling grammar, use this particular prompt template, and use this text. How are you doing? Which is an incorrect spelling, right? It should be how are you doing, not how are you doing. So I can run it against this prompt template, and it will fix the text correctly, giving you the response from the large language model. So this is just an idea of what the kinds of things that you might want to think about, extending beyond just sort of running through your own prompts, designing your own prompts, but extending the capabilities of the prompts to do more things like getting real-time information or storing and versioning your prompts as well. So I think with that, maybe I'll sort of conclude, and if there's any question, pass back to Abhi. So thank you.
Thank you, Polong. That was an incredibly engaging and very packed minutes of prompt engineering best practices and resources. So a few questions on the chat while you were speaking about it is that they, first of all, they wanted the link to the repo. I know you shared it while you started, but if you could share it again, it'll be great. And also the link, direct links to your spell checkers and other review templates that you've created. It'll be really helpful. And there are a few questions that's coming up here in the chat for you right now. If you want to take a look at that for a couple of minutes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. Let's just take a quick look. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat here. So I've just someone actually shared the repo, which is great. So that's there. And then
let me read the question for you. Yeah. One says, in the example you showed verbose, like how do I realize I'm stretching the prompt unnecessarily?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very iterative process and a very human process. You could even try to ask the LLM to try to improve your prompt by making it more concise, potentially. But just try to think in mind, like, it's not necessarily that you're talking to a human, right? You don't need to be particularly nice to a large language model because it is, at the end of the day, just a model. You can be more direct, more upfront, be very, like do this or do that sort of thing and style language, which, it's not as conversational as you would perhaps to your friend or to a colleague. So I just think of these sorts of things as you think about this. There's no like perfect answer. It has to be n number of words, or you have to remove certain words like that. But any chance that you can reduce the length of your prompt to make it a little bit more direct, the better. So you can think of like adjectives or adverbs, that sort of thing, to just try to reduce.
Ameya, I think what the answer that Polong just gave right now answers yours as well, that it's an iterative process to understand the mistake and improve to expectations. So we are at time. This was really useful, Polong. So if there is any closing thought, and everyone, you've been continuously asking about recording, it will be available at the same landing page, codevipassana.dev. Right after the session. It'll take a few minutes for the recording to process, but after that, in about an hour or so, you should be seeing the video recording there. Any closing thoughts, Polong? Like, I'll leave it up to you to end the session today, you being our speaker today.
No, not really. Just there's a whole world of things that you can do with generative AI, I think. And I think maybe if this was your entry point, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to discover and to learn. So I wish you all well and good luck on your journey as you learn everything to do with AI.
Cool. Thank you so much, Polong. Thank you, everybody. Our next session is on the 8th, which is day after tomorrow. It is also listed in codevipassana.dev site. Please go there and make sure that you're all signed up and ready. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We have 6 more sessions to go. And thanks again, Polong. And thanks to the incredible Code Vipassana leads team who've been running the show in the chat and answering questions and all when we are busy talking. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Thank you, Polong. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Jai Balaya. Jai
Thank you,
Balaya.
ma'am. Thank you.
How to see where is the account ID, ma'am?
Which account ID?
We have to submit the project, right? In the screenshot, it's written that account ID should be visible. So where is the account ID?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. Akshay or Bharat, either of you, could you help?
I think project name, she was referring to project name and this.
So what screenshot should I take?
The last step screenshot should be there.
In the result tab,
Yes.
the results tab should be visible.
Yeah.
Okay.
And your project name should be visible.
Yes. Okay.
Till when we are allowed to do the submissions?
By December 7th.
Okay, thank you.
Will the meeting
We
link
complete-
be the sessions?
Yes, it will be available on codevipassana.dev.
Okay, thank you.
Can we complete this by December 7th? Today's session?
Yes, you have whole month to complete. You can complete it by December 7th.
Okay.
Do we get any confirmation of knowing if our submission is correct or not?
No, I think that won't be possible because we have like more than 700 people here. So
Okay, because in this, I guess the project ID is in the link, right? Because we cannot see project ID anywhere. It's just showing on the above link of Chrome. Is it fine?
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that possible to get that the recording link?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
The session link recording.
Yeah, recording will be available on codevipassana.dev.
Oh,
Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
If you all have any questions, you can ask. We'll maybe stay for a couple of more minutes.
I had hello. Yeah,
Yes.
I had this model on my own data, and it was pulling out information from elsewhere that was not in the data set. Like I was saying, give me a review of this product on the basis of this product review that you're reading in the columns. Tell me if this product is suitable for this customer. And what it was doing was that it was pulling out products that were not in the data at all. So what kind of steps could you take to control the output so it only uses the data in the that the store has? So like supposing you have a clothing store with a description of items, and you run this model to say pick all the shorts that are green color. So it what it is doing is basically showing shorts that the store is not selling, that are not in the database. Hello?
I didn't get your question. Could somebody help?
Yeah, so let me try explaining it a different way.
Or else you
Basically,
can drop in text chat box, okay? What is your doubt?
okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So thing is like, we have to do the 7th step, right? I mean the coding part.
Yeah.
Create a remote ML model. So I use this. We have this thing now. What is that? Terminal. I used it. I just proceeded with this, whatever the configuration step I got it, but it's not coming actually.
Okay. So what I would suggest is once you get the recording, you just go through the recording again and try. If you are not being able to do that, we have a Discord server which you can
Yeah, in
choose.
that only I just just put a text and they told me to just start with the gcloud config set project ID.
Okay.
So should I add like gcloud config set project and my project ID only, no?
Yeah, whatever instruction they have given you, follow that.
All right.
And join the Discord server.
Yeah, I'll
And
join.
if you
I'll
have
join.
further doubts, there'll be people to help you out.
So we are supposed to complete all the 7 things before December 7th.
Yeah, correct.
All right. Okay, then thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, in the Google Form link of the submission link, so it's asking for that the account ID should be visible. So how to ensure that?
How to ensure? Sorry, I didn't get your question.
No, means if you can see the Google's form submission link, so it is asking for that Google Drive link of the results screenshot with your account ID visible. So how do I ensure that my account ID is visible?
Yeah,
Akshay,
in the right top corner,
Yeah.
you can see your account ID.
I think they are referring to the project name, which comes on the top, along with the terminal screen. So make sure your project name is visible. That would be unique to each one of you, right?
So the same project with the same project, we need to complete all the labs.
It's not mandatory, but it's recommended. Yeah.
Okay.
Because your billing, your credit will be only linked with one billing account, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, am I audible?
Yes.
The process flow, if at all we make a mistake, is there any chance of redoing the process from the starting?
Yes, the recording will be available. You can go through the recording again, and if you have any doubts, you can reach out to us on Discord.
Okay. Like, if at all we make a mistake in any step, can we redo that step from the previous one, like that?
Yes,
If
yes, you can. You have the whole month to try and
Yeah.
move it.
Okay.
Where is the link to Discord?
Yes, I will drop you a link in comments.
We will get the recordings in the Discord only, no?
It will be available on codevipassana.dev.
Yeah, the landing
Okay.
page that we have, you'll find all of that.
Okay.
And also, I think Sahil had a question related to his personal project. So, Sahil, I suggest you join our Discord server and frame the question and post it there. Someone from our team will get back to you.
I've dropped the link.
Hello, I had one more question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are 7 labs, so we need to fill the forms every time after we complete the labs, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
For each of the labs, you'll have to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then.
I have one last. If
Okay.
we are getting error, how do we like get help on that? Like I was facing couple of errors and like while trying out the steps. So how do I reach out for help?
You can join our Discord server.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Ma'am, I have one doubt.
Yes.
After completing the labs, like how should I let you know that I have completed?
So you're submitting the form, right?
Yeah,
So
ma'am.
the form, you're posting a screenshot. That's how we'll know that.
Oh, we will. I should take a screenshot and put it on the drive, right?
Yeah. Just the way it's mentioned, you have to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Can you share the link, ma'am, for the form?
Link of the submission form. Just
Yeah.
Mohan, do you have? Can you just share that link? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
I've shared it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
For every submission, will the form be same or will it be different?
No, it's the same form.
Okay.
So you have to choose the season number, which is season 4 in the form, and then you will choose the sessions, right? So today is session 1, so you will choose 1. There is season number and session number. So for today's session, the submission for submitting for today's session, choose session number as 1. For the next session, it will be 2 and so on.
Okay, basically we just edit the form every day, like.
Yeah, no, not the same. So you can submit in the same form multiple times.
Yeah, okay.
Or else you can submit in your drive link. You can submit here. Okay, you can upload
Yeah.
all the photos in drive link and you can submit in the form.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Got it.
Okay, then. Have a good night, all of you. It was great having all of you together today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome. Hello guys, you can leave the session. Thank you all. Bye.